fictional art for entertainment.
Imagine a billionaire in the year 2040.
Right.
If you ask anyone today to just, picture that kind of wealth, they usually default to something straight out of a glossy sci-fi movie.
Oh, absolutely. Like everything is totally pristine.
Exactly. They picture this life completely devoid of friction, like transparent screens, invisible neural interfaces, rooms made entirely of seamless white glass.
Yeah, that classic sterile future look.
Right. But what if the ultimate flex of the future has absolutely nothing to do with better technology?
That is the big question.
What if in a world where digital perfection is cheap and, basically infinite, the most unimaginable luxury is actually just a heavy wooden oak desk?
It really flips the whole concept of value on its head.
It totally does.
Yeah.
So today, if you are joining us, we are doing a deep dive into a really chilling piece of near-future speculative fiction to find out why physical gravity, mass, and just, dirt might be the last true status symbols on Earth.
Yeah, and it forces a complete reevaluation of where we are heading as a society right now.
It really does. I mean, we have this ingrained assumption that progress is just a straight line toward the intangible.
Right. Everything will eventually just live in the cloud and we won't need physical stuff.
Exactly. But the text we are looking at today, which is a short story titled The Sundeck of the Digital Titanic, completely flips that assumption.
It really takes all those economic and technological trends that are sitting right in front of us today and just, fast forwards them.
Fast forwards them into a scenario that is incredibly grounded and deeply unsettling.
So unsettling.
And it does this not by lecturing you about economics, but by dropping you straight into the life of one very specific character.
Which is such an effective way to tell this kind of story.
It is. So your mission today is to step inside this 2040 reality with us. We are going to dive into the granular mechanics of this world.
Like how exactly the working class was bypassed.
Right, and the terrifying legal structure of a totally new kind of universal basic income.
And of course, why humanity has literally physically separated itself.
Yes, but the atmosphere of this piece is so critical. The way the environment dictates the economy is something you just have to experience to fully grasp.
Which is exactly why we need to hear the source material in its purest form before we just, tear it apart and analyze it.
I completely agree.
The tension in this story relies entirely on the transition from this very intimate, claustrophobic interior space to a massive, mind-bending exterior reality.
Right. If we just summarize that transition, we strip away the exact sensory details that explain how power works in 2040.
So we are doing something special for the first part of this deep dive.
Yes, we are going to do a complete, uninterrupted reading of Paula 2040.
No pausing to debate the technology in the middle.
None of that, just pure immersion. I will take on the dialogue and the audio logs of our sole character, Paula.
And I will read the role of the narrator, setting the scene and describing the mechanics of her world.
And once the story concludes, I promise you, we are going completely down the rabbit hole to figure out what this means for your job, your money, and your physical reality.
Let's go to 2040.
Let's do it.
The air in the study felt like a bridge between two worlds. On one side, there was the comforting, vanilla-sweet musk of thousands of old, physical books.
On the other, the sharp electric tang of the cooling fans keeping her high-end tech from overheating.
Paula sat at a desk of solid, heavy oak. A piece of furniture that felt grounded and real.
While shimmering blue holograms danced and flickered just inches above the wood.
With a tired sigh, Paula reached out and tapped a glowing icon that hung in the air like a frozen spark.
She cleared her throat, her voice sounding scratchy and raw after a long day of solitude.
Audio log, entry 414.
Subject, the Great Split.
I've been tracing the line from the kings of the 1400s to the tech giants of the 2020s, all the way to where we are now in 2040.
She leaned back in her soft leather chair, watching the data streams pulse like a neon heartbeat.
My research this morning confirms what we all felt coming. Yeah. Hundreds of years ago, power was about who owned the grain in the land.
Today, power is about who owns the processing power and the machines that move the world.
The real tipping point happened between 2024 and 2030. That was when AI became smarter than the average office worker.
Suddenly, the working class lost their power.
You can't go on strike against a machine that never gets tired, never asks for a paycheck, and doesn't need a union.
Paula rubbed her eyes, her face bathed in the pale, ghostly glow of a graph showing the massive gap between the rich and everyone else.
The result is the world we live in now. The bottom 90% aren't really living, they're being managed.
They get universal basic income dropped into digital wallets every month, but there's a catch.
The money expires if they don't spend it. It's the modern version of bread and circuses.
It gives them just enough calories to survive and just enough high-speed virtual reality to keep them distracted so they don't try to burn the system down.
You can't get ahead when you can't save. The ladder has been pulled up.
She paused the recording for a second and looked around her room.
The shelves were packed with real books, a luxury that cost more than most people saw in a year.
She could afford them because she was a human in the loop.
One of the few people left whose human brain was still needed to make sense of history.
She tapped the icon again to finish.
The middle class didn't just fade away, it was priced out of existence.
To look at the year 2040 is to realize we built a digital Titanic.
The only difference is, this ship doesn't need an ocean to stay afloat.
Paula stood up, her knees giving a satisfying pop in the quiet room.
She left the glowing hologram spinning on her desk and walked toward the massive glass doors at the back of the room.
The glass slid open with a soft hiss of pressurized air.
Immediately, a rush of crisp, clean, mountain-thin wind swept into the room, dancing through her hair and rustling the papers on her desk.
Paula stepped out onto a deck of polished wood, her fingers gripping the cool, smooth steel of the railing.
She took a deep, lung-filling breath of the fresh air and smiled.
"Enjoy the present," she whispered to herself. "It's all I have."
As the perspective shifts, the true scale of her world is revealed.
The wooden deck doesn't lead to a garden or a street. It hangs over 3,000 feet of empty, sapphire blue space.
Beneath the house, massive anti-gravity rings hum with a low, soothing vibration, glowing with a soft, pulsing azure light.
Her home is a magnificent private island floating completely free in the sky.
Far, far below, a thick, permanent blanket of white clouds hides the earth.
Beneath those clouds lies the shadowed sprawl, the endless, crowded cities where the other 90% live out their lives in digital dreams.
But up here, on the sun deck, the air is perfect, the sky is a brilliant, endless blue, and the sun shines forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is just, it's such an incredibly bleak but perfectly constructed vision.
It really is. It sets the scene so vividly.
Great, like you just take a second and look around your own living room right now.
Yeah, think about what you actually value.
Right, like what objects do you consider valuable? Is it a high-end laptop?
A massive flat-screen television.
Exactly, or maybe a smart speaker. The text starts by attacking that exact modern presumption of value.
It completely deconstructs it right from the first sentence.
We really need to dissect the sensory paradox established in that opening.
Because the author plunges us into this dichotomy between the vanilla sweet musk of old physical books and the sharp electric tang of the cooling fans.
Right. It's such brilliant world building because it doesn't give you a history lesson right away. It gives you smells and textures.
Yeah, it grounds you in the physical space before explaining the economics of it.
And that electric tang of ozone and hot silicon, I mean, that is something we associate with massive server farms today.
Or cryptocurrency mining rigs.
Right. It represents this relentless, infinite computation. But juxtaposing that with the smell of old paper creates instant friction.
It really does. It's such a stark contrast.
I think about it like, well, imagine holding a vintage vinyl record while sitting inside an Amazon Web Services data center.
Oh, that is a great analogy.
Because when you hold a record, you slide it out of a cardboard sleeve, it has actual weight to it.
Yeah, and it requires a physical needle tracing a physical groove just to produce sound.
Exactly. It is entirely analog and highly vulnerable to scratching or warping.
But in this scenario, you are holding it surrounded by machines that duplicate flawless, infinite digital files millions of times a second.
Right. And in Paula's world, the technology is actually the noisy, intrusive element.
It's just a background annoyance.
The cooling fans are an annoyance. The true sanctuary is that heavy oak desk.
Which begs the question, why has the definition of luxury inverted so completely?
Why is the desk better than the hologram?
To understand that, you have to look at the history of material scarcity.
Okay, lay it on me.
Think back to the 19th century. Material scarcity was completely different. Like, think about aluminum.
Right, aluminum.
Yeah, it was incredibly difficult to extract back then. It was literally so rare that it was more expensive than gold.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, Napoleon III supposedly served his most honored guests on aluminum plates.
Wait, and everyone else got what, gold?
Exactly. The lesser guests had to eat on mere gold and silver.
That is just wild to think about today, considering we use it for, soda cans.
And wrapping leftover pizza before throwing it away.
Right, so scarcity dictates value.
Precisely. But once we developed the Hall-Héroult process to easily extract aluminum in the late 1880s, it became incredibly cheap.
Because we could make as much of it as we wanted.
Exactly. So in the year 2040, what is abundant?
Digital information.
Right. Processing power. Light, data, and pixels.
The holograms in her room are described as dancing and flickering. They have absolutely no mass.
They can be conjured endlessly for basically zero cost.
So digital perfection is the new aluminum. It is the cheap, everyday material of the masses.
That makes the oak desk the new gold.
Or the new real estate.
Yeah, because a physical book requires a tree be planted, grown for decades in physical soil,
Chopped down, milled, printed with physical ink.
bound, and shipped across a physical ocean,
And most importantly, it requires physical space to store it.
which is at a premium.
The physical object is the luxury because it proves you have a claim to the earth.
It proves you have the resources to actually take up space in a world that is aggressively trying to compress everyone else into weightless data.
That is so deeply unsettling when you think about how much of our lives we are willingly putting into the cloud right now.
And that leads perfectly into the subject of Paula's research, because you can't really understand why the 90% are being compressed without understanding the historical lineage she maps out.
Right, in audio log 414, she introduces the concept of the Great Split.
She traces power like an evolutionary biologist tracing a species.
She notes that hundreds of years ago, power was inherently agricultural.
If you controlled the grain and you controlled the land, you were the king.
That is a very tangible, earthbound kind of leverage.
Very physical.
But then she moves forward to the 2020s, which is essentially our present day,
Yeah.
and identifies a massive shift.
Power transitioned from those who own the land to the tech giants.
The ones who own the platforms, the data, and human attention.
But then we get the critical leap to her present in 2040.
And power has distilled into its absolute, purest, most ruthless form.
It is no longer about human attention at all.
No, it is entirely about processing power and the machines that move the world.
She points to a very specific tipping point between 2024 and 2030 when AI became smarter than the average office worker.
Now, we really need to dig into the mechanics of this, because it isn't just a story about computers getting faster.
No, not at all.
It's a story about the total collapse of the social contract.
The social contract under capitalism for the last few centuries has fundamentally been a hostage negotiation.
A hostage negotiation? How so?
Well, capital needed labor to extract value.
Oh, I see.
Even the most monopolistic, ruthless industrial barons of the 19th century needed human beings with working hands.
Right. Someone had to actually go down into the coal mines.
Exactly. To run the textile looms, to rivet the steel, capital had the resources, but labor had the friction.
Labor could withhold their work. But wait, looking closely at the history of labor movements, the moment the working class is marginalized or replaced, they don't just passively accept a digital cage.
Usually they don't.
Right, like they revolt. When the power loom threatened weavers in the 1810s, the Luddites literally broke into factories and smashed the machines with hammers.
They absolutely did.
So why doesn't the 90% in this 2040 timeline just burn down the server farms?
It's a great question.
If they lose their jobs to AI, why isn't there blood in the streets?
Because you can't smash a server you can't reach.
Oh, man.
The genius and honestly the horror of this technological transition is its invisibility and its geography.
The Luddites could walk into a factory and smash a physical loom because it was sitting right there in their town.
Right down the street. But how do you smash a distributed cloud architecture?
You literally can't.
How do you strike against a large language model that lives in a heavily guarded, automated data center in the middle of a desert?
Or deep underwater.
Or in low Earth orbit?
That is deeply chilling. The geographic separation of the machines from the people makes physical resistance basically impossible.
The working class loses its leverage because their labor isn't replaced by another physical entity they can fight.
It's replaced by math.
Exactly. Paula says, you can't go on strike against a machine that never gets tired, never asks for a paycheck, and doesn't need a union.
The elite just don't need to negotiate anymore because the human worker has been entirely removed from the wealth generation equation.
It represents the complete decoupling of human value from economic value.
And when you have billions of people who are no longer economically necessary, you face an unprecedented logistical and political problem.
A massive problem. Because you can't simply let them starve en masse.
No, because that leads to a chaotic collapse of the society the elite still technically inhabit.
You need a system of management.
Which brings us to the most sinister economic mechanism I have ever seen depicted in fiction.
It really is terrifying.
We need to talk about how this world weaponizes universal basic income. Right. Now, in our present, UBI is often discussed as this utopian Star Trek-esque ideal.
Right. The idea is that automation does the hard work, and the government gives everyone a baseline income, so poverty is eradicated.
Leaving humanity free to, paint, write poetry, and philosophize.
But this 2040 UBI is a trap.
It is a programmable cage.
The text describes a highly engineered central bank digital currency.
The UBI drops into their digital wallets every month, but with a fatal condition.
The money expires if it is not spent.
It literally evaporates from the ledger.
It's gone.
Wait, so how does that actually work mechanically and legally?
Okay, so think about it like this. Today, money serves two fundamental purposes.
Right.
It is a medium of exchange, and it is a store of value.
Right, so you can use $20 to buy lunch today.
Or you can put it in a savings account, earn a tiny bit of interest, and use it to buy lunch 10 years from now.
But by making the currency expire, the system in 2040 completely strips away the second function.
Mechanically, it functions through smart contracts on a centralized blockchain.
Okay, so it's programmed money.
Exactly. The issuing authority encodes an expiration date into every single token.
So let's say you receive 1,000 credits on the first of the month.
The smart contract states that at 11:59 p.m. on the 30th, any unspent fraction of those specific tokens is automatically burned.
Deleted from existence.
Yes. Legally, you don't even own the money. You are simply granted a temporary license to consume.
That is just wild. It reminds me instantly of the company towns in the American coal mining industry during the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
Oh, that is the perfect historical parallel.
A mining company would build a town in the middle of nowhere. They owned the houses, they owned the grocery store.
They owned everything.
And they didn't pay the miners in actual US dollars.
No, they paid them in company scrip.
Right. And that scrip was only valid at the company store, which wildly inflated its prices.
The miners could never save enough real capital to move away or start their own business.
They were locked in a closed-loop system of permanent financial servitude.
That is the exact historical precedent the text is drawing on.
It's just modernized.
This expiring UBI is digital scrip on a global scale. It forces the velocity of money.
It ensures that the 90% are constantly consuming the digital goods and synthetic calories produced by the elite's AI.
Keeping the artificial economy humming.
But it makes it mathematically impossible to accrue capital.
You cannot save up to buy an asset.
You cannot build intergenerational wealth.
Paula hits the nail on the head when she says the ladder has been pulled up.
The ceiling isn't made of glass, it's made of code.
And the text synthesizes this absolute control by explicitly invoking the phrase bread and circuses.
Which, this isn't a new concept at all.
No, the Roman poet Juvenal actually coined the phrase in the late 1st or early 2nd century AD.
So it's ancient.
Very. He was mourning the fact that the Roman citizens, who used to have a fierce say in their republic and their political destiny, had basically just given up their historic responsibilities.
They traded their freedom for comfort.
They had handed over their power to emperors in exchange for free wheat, which was the bread.
And massive, bloody chariot races and gladiator games at the Colosseum, which was the circuses.
Exactly. The mechanics of pacifying a massive urban population really haven't changed in 2,000 years.
Just the technology has.
The 2040 system gives them just enough calories to survive.
That's the bread. Probably some highly optimized, lab-grown synthetic nutrient paste or something.
Right, just enough to keep the biological machine running. And the circus is the high-speed virtual reality.
The VR is the crucial component here, isn't it?
It really is. You have billions of people with zero economic mobility, zero purpose, and expiring money.
The psychological toll of that existence would normally breed radicalization.
The VR is the opiate.
It is a highly curated, hyper-stimulating digital environment designed specifically to capture all of their cognitive and emotional energy.
It is crowd control through algorithmic subsidy.
If you keep a VR headset strapped to their faces, pumping in a perfectly tailored simulation of adventure, romance, or status, they just won't look up.
They will notice that they don't own real property.
The text says they are being managed, and that word is honestly terrifying.
Because they aren't citizens anymore.
They aren't even consumers in the traditional sense.
They are inventory.
They are a potential hazard, a biological surplus that needs to be heavily sedated so they don't interrupt the processing power of the machines above.
Having established this incredibly bleak existence for the vast majority of humanity, the narrative forces us to look closely at Paula's unique position.
Right, because she is clearly not down in the VR sprawl.
No, she has physical books and a wooden desk.
But why? The text gives her a very specific professional designation. It says she is a human in the loop.
She explicitly states that she is one of the few people left whose human brain is still needed to make sense of history.
Now, this creates a massive analytical puzzle for me.
How so?
Well, we just established that the AI in this timeline is essentially godlike, right?
Right.
It runs the entire global supply chain. It manages a programmable currency system for billions of people. It generates infinite high-fidelity virtual realities in real time.
It does all of that seamlessly.
It has rendered 99.9% of human labor utterly obsolete.
Yeah.
Yet, this omnipotent intelligence apparently lacks the capacity to contextualize human history. Why does an AI that can run the world need Paula?
It comes down to the fundamental difference between data and narrative.
Okay, I'm listening.
Or, more accurately, the difference between logic and irrationality.
Ah, okay.
Artificial intelligence, no matter how advanced, operates on optimization, pattern recognition, and logical outcomes.
But human history is rarely logical.
Exactly.
I think about the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962.
That's a perfect example.
If you fed all the geopolitical data, the military capabilities, and the strategic game theory of that exact moment into a pure logic machine, the optimal, most mathematically sound move for either the US or the Soviets might very well have been a preemptive strike.
The machine would calculate acceptable losses.
Exactly. It would just look at the numbers. But what saved the world wasn't a mathematical formula.
No, it was the terrifying, sweat-inducing, purely human intuition of the people in the room.
It was fear, empathy, and a profound, completely irrational instinct to pull back from the brink.
An AI can instantly process the dates, the troop movements, and the economic outputs of World War I.
But can it truly parse why the assassination of one archduke in Sarajevo caused millions of men to willingly walk into machine gun fire in muddy trenches for 4 years?
Probably not. History is driven by ego.
By spite, by religious fervor, by ideological contradictions?
Paula is the translator. The AI can process the what, but it requires a biological, emotional human.
Someone fundamentally flawed.
Yes, to understand the why.
She is the bridge between human legacy and machine logic.
But her survival, as this human in the loop, comes with a terrible psychological burden.
She is uniquely positioned to understand exactly what has been lost.
She notes that the middle class didn't fade away, it was priced out of existence.
And this brings us to the defining metaphor of the text, and really the title of the story itself, the digital Titanic.
It is a devastatingly accurate metaphor.
Think about what the original Titanic represents in our cultural consciousness.
It is the ultimate symbol of technological hubris.
It was this massive, highly stratified physical structure where the wealthy were on the upper decks with the sunlight and the fine dining.
And the poor were locked in steerage below the waterline.
The architects believed their technology made the ship unsinkable, rendering the natural world, the ocean, the ice, totally irrelevant.
But Paula adds this chilling modern twist to it.
She says the only difference is this ship doesn't need an ocean to stay afloat.
I want to really unpack the mechanics of that statement.
Yeah, let's do it. A physical ship sinking is a fast, violent, kinetic event.
Water rushes in, gravity takes over.
But a digital sinking is entirely different.
The sinking of the digital Titanic is economic, societal, and spiritual, rather than physical.
The lower decks, the 90%, have already sunk.
They have drowned in obsolescence, expiring currency, and VR sedation.
But the tragedy is that the ship itself remains structurally intact.
The engines, which are the AI server farms, are humming along perfectly.
The lights are still on.
The ship doesn't require water to sink. It simply requires the complete collapse of human value and mobility.
The disaster has already happened, but because the machinery still functions, the people on the sun deck can just stand there feeling the fresh wind.
While the rest of humanity silently suffocates in a digital ocean below them.
Which forces an incredible, jarring transition in the text.
It really does. We move from this heavy, philosophical, internal monologue directly into the physical reveal of the world outside her study.
The author brilliantly uses a sensory shift to just snap us out of the theoretical and into the visceral.
You have Paula inside this quiet room, dominated by the smell of vanilla and the hum of electronics.
Then she walks to the back of the room, and the massive glass doors slide open.
The text gives us that soft hiss of pressurized air.
Think about the implications of that one sound.
A hiss of pressurized air means her study is a sealed, controlled, artificial ecosystem.
It implies a barrier between her and the outside.
And when that seal breaks, there is a rush of crisp, clean, mountain-thin wind that sweeps into the room.
As a reader, your initial assumption is maybe she's on a high-rise balcony in some futuristic metropolis.
But then she steps out, and the author pulls the camera back to reveal a 3,000-foot drop of empty sapphire blue space.
This is where the story shifts from a speculative economic essay into awe-inspiring and, frankly, terrifying sci-fi world-building.
Let's break down the technology described here.
Yeah, because beneath her wooden deck, the text reveals massive anti-gravity rings humming with a low vibration, pulsing with azure light.
It completely recontextualizes the entire scene.
She isn't in a skyscraper. She isn't on a mountain.
Her home is a private, magnificent island floating completely free in the sky.
She is quite literally severed from the physical Earth.
But why would a society build this?
Right. If you have the energy and the technological mastery to manipulate gravity, you have the energy to solve all resource scarcity on the planet.
You could build literal paradises on the surface.
So why float an island?
Because it is the ultimate expression of the great split she was researching.
Wealth, at a certain extreme, is no longer about acquiring goods, it is about acquiring distance.
It's about secession.
Think about the evolution of elite segregation. First, it was the gated community to keep the public out.
Then, it was the private jet to move without interacting with public infrastructure.
And in 2040, the elite have essentially looked at the surface of the Earth, decided it is irredeemably cluttered with the managed masses, and chosen to secede into the atmosphere.
The geography of inequality has become entirely vertical.
They have taken their slice of pristine land, strapped an anti-gravity ring to the bottom, and abandoned the planet entirely.
We have to contrast the physical reality of Paula's world up on the sun deck with what the text describes below.
Up there, she has perfect air, an endless blue sky, and a place where the sun shines forever.
She is literally above the weather.
She is immune to the atmospheric and climatic conditions that govern life on the surface.
And below her is the physical manifestation of the digital Titanic steerage class.
The text describes a thick, permanent blanket of white clouds that completely hides the Earth.
It is an opaque barrier.
And beneath those clouds lies what the narrative calls the shadowed sprawl.
The endless, crowded cities where the other 90% live out their lives.
They are physically trapped in darkness. The pollution, or perhaps geoengineering gone wrong, blocks out the actual sun.
It is a dark, cramped, decaying physical reality.
But the terrifying perfection of the system is that the people living down in the shadowed sprawl probably don't even realize they are in the dark.
Because of the VR.
Right. Their headsets are pumping a simulated, perfect, high-definition sun directly into their optic nerves.
They're surviving on expiring digital rations, living in a rotting physical sprawl, but their digital dream tells them everything is beautiful.
Meanwhile, the elite have hoarded the actual physical sun.
They have hoarded real wind, real gravity, and real wood.
It forces you to look at our current trajectory with virtual reality.
Is VR going to be this incredible tool for human connection and empathy?
Or is it going to be the ultimate opiate? A cheap synthetic substitute for physical freedom, mass-produced by the same people who are quietly buying up all the actual land and resources.
It acts as a mirror, asking you, the listener, to evaluate the technology in your own life.
Every time you see an AI platform update that brags about doing the work of 10 humans,
Every time you hear a debate about programmable digital currencies.
or every time you see a tech billionaire buying massive tracts of isolated land, this story asks you to connect the dots.
Are we building systems that will elevate the entire human race, or are we laying the foundational code for the shadowed sprawl?
Are we quietly constructing the anti-gravity rings for a select few while preparing the digital circuses for everyone else?
It fundamentally changes how you view the devices you rely on every day.
It really makes you realize that true power isn't about owning the fastest machine, it's about not needing to be plugged into it at all.
That is so true.
Which leaves me with one final, deeply unsettling thought to mull over as we wrap up.
Okay, what is it?
It's a paradox drawn purely from the psychological logic this text presents.
What is the paradox?
Well, we naturally feel a profound sense of horror and pity for the 90% living down in the shadowed sprawl.
Of course. They have lost their autonomy, their history, and their physical world.
But, well, if they are perfectly managed, if they are fed just enough calories so they aren't physically starving, and if their high-speed virtual reality is so convincing that it feels entirely real to them, do they even know they are trapped?
That's a good point.
From their subjective experience, they might be living incredible, fulfilling lives inside the simulation.
Ignorance is bliss. mechanically enforced.
Exactly. So who is actually suffering in this scenario? Are the people in the sprawl suffering, or is it Paula?
She is the one up in the perfect sunshine, breathing the real air.
But she is burdened by her human-in-the-loop necessities.
She is the only one who truly understands the tragic, irreversible history of what humanity sacrificed to build this floating world.
She is awake to the reality of the digital Titanic.
So I have to ask, who is the real prisoner in 2040?
The billions who are peacefully asleep in the digital dream, or the one woman standing awake on the sun deck of a sinking ship, knowing exactly what lies beneath the clouds?
That is the ultimate haunting question of the digital Titanic.
The burden of reality versus the comfort of the cage.
Absolutely.
Think about that the next time you find yourself staring at a screen instead of looking out a window. Until next time, keep diving deep.
Dreaming with eyes open. Storydoy.